Aloha, dear friends. Welcome to the Sunday morning devotional program sponsored by the Spiritual Assemblies of the Baha'is of South DeKalb and Sandy Springs, Georgia. It's wonderful to have all of you with us today. Across the globe, the teachings of the Baha'i faith, brought to us more than 150 years ago by His Holiness Baha'u'llah, its founder, whose name in Arabic means the glory of God, have inspired and continue to inspire individuals and communities as they strive to improve their own lives and contribute to the development of civilization. Baha'i beliefs address such central themes as the oneness of God and religion, the oneness of humanity, and freedom from all forms of prejudice, the inherent nobility of the human being, the progressive revelation of religious truth, a gradual unfolding of God's purpose with the appearance of each divine teacher, the development of spiritual qualities which allow us to reflect the image God made us in, the integration of worship and service, with work performed in the spirit of service being accounted as worship in the eyes of God, the fundamental equality of the sexes more widely evidenced in a setting of equal opportunity, the harmony between religion and science as an established fact, the centrality of justice in all human endeavor, the importance of education, particularly for children, and the dynamics of the relationships that bind together individuals, communities, and institutions as humanity advances towards its collective maturity. Again, welcome. We're pleased to have you join us. We'll begin with opening devotions. Please mute yourselves if you're not speaking, and silence your electronic devices if you are speaking. Thank you. Gwen?
O God, my beloved, my heart's desire. The Bab.
Kathy?
I adjure thee by thy might, O my God. Let no harm beset me in times of tests, and in moments of heedlessness guide my steps aright through thine inspiration. Thou art God. Potent art thou to do what thou desirest. No one can withstand thy will or thwart thy purpose. The Bab.
Bibi?
Say God sufficeth all things above all things, and nothing in the heavens or in the earth but God sufficeth. Verily, he is in himself, the knower, the sustainer, the omnipotent, the Bab.
Dungting?
O my God, unite the hearts of thy servants, and reveal to them the great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor, and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, leave them not to themselves, but guide their steps by the light of thy knowledge, and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art the helper and the Lord. Baha'u'llah.
Leo?
My God, whom I worship and adore, I bear witness unto thy unity and thy oneness, and acknowledge thy gifts both in the past and in the present. Thou art the all-bountiful, the overflowing showers of whose mercy have rained down upon high and low alike, and the splendors of whose grace have been shed over both the obedient and the rebellious. O God of mercy, before whose door the quintessence of mercy had bowed down, and round the sanctuary whose cause loving kindness in its utmost spirit had circled, we beseech thee, entreating thine ancient grace and seeking thy present favor, that thou mayest have mercy upon all who are the manifestations of the world of being, and deny them not the outpourings of thy grace in thy days. All are but poor and needy, and thou verily art the all-possessing, the all-subduing, the all-powerful. Baha'u'llah.
Roger.
Thou compassionate Lord, thou who art generous and able, we are servants of thine, sheltered beneath thy providence. Cast thy glance of favor upon us. Give light to our eyes, hearing to our ears, and understanding and love to our hearts. Render our souls joyous and happy through thy glad tidings. O Lord, point out to us the pathway of thy kingdom and resuscitate all of us to the breaths of the Holy Spirit. Bestow upon us life everlasting and confer upon us never-ending honor. Unify mankind and illumine the world of humanity. May we all follow thy pathway, long for thy good pleasure, and seek the mysteries of the kingdom. O God, unite us and connect our hearts with the indissoluble bond. Verily, thou art the giver, thou art the kind one, and thou art the Almighty. Abdul Baha.
O Lord, enable all the peoples of the earth to gain admittance into the paradise of thy faith, so that no created being may remain beyond the bounds of thy good pleasure. From time immemorial, thou hast been potent to do what pleaseth thee, and transcendent above whatsoever thou desirest. Bibi.
O my brother, a pure heart is as a mirror. Cleanse it with the burnish of love and severance from all save God, that the true sun may shine therein, and the eternal morning dawn. Then wilt thou clearly see the meaning of earth and heaven cannot contain me. What can alone contain me is the heart of him that believeth in me. And thou wilt take up thy life in thy hand, and with infinite longing cast it before thy newly found beloved. Baha'u'llah, the call of the divine beloved.
Kathy.
The whole human race is submerged in the sea of the mercy of the Lord. And we are all the sheep of the one divine shepherd. Whatever shortcomings exist amongst us must be remedied. For example, those who are ignorant must be educated so that they may become wise. The sick must be treated until they recover. Those who are immature must be trained in order to reach maturity. Those asleep must be awakened. All this must be accomplished through love and not through hatred and hostility. Abdul Baha.
Thank you to all of today's readers. Next, we're going to listen to a healing prayer. If any of you wish to remember a loved one through this prayer for healing, please feel free to call out their name at this time.
Richard Wright.
The Baha'is of Colombia, who are suffering a lot now.
Sylvia Hall.
Josie Reynolds.
Thy name is my healing, oh my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy. Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing, and my succor in both this world and the worlds to come. Thou verily art the all bountiful, the all knowing, the all wise. The all knowing, the all knowing, the all knowing, the all wise, the all knowing, the all wise, the all knowing, the all wise.
And now we're blessed to have a musical offering.
It disappeared on me again, but I'm gonna find it and we're gonna play it before the day is over.
All right.
So you can go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Friends, each week we're blessed to have a guest speaker share with us their insights on a particular topic. This week, we're honored to have with us Mr. Leonardo Duque. For a total of 27 years, Leonardo has been an elected member, or was an elected member, of the National Spiritual Assemblies of the Baha'is of Costa Rica and Colombia. During the last 15 years, he has been a member of the local spiritual assembly of the Baha'is of Central DeKalb. He and his son translate the American Baha'i into Spanish every 2 months. Currently, he is participating in a committee developing the first doctoral program of the Baha'i Institute of Higher Education for our brothers and sisters in Iran. The program will be a PhD in community health promotion. He's the author of several books about fusing science and religion in a common conceptual framework. He says, without continuously serving God's cause, none of my books will bear fruition. The tests and challenges endured while trying to practice and teach his cause become opportunities to advance. The triumph of his cause is the cause of my existence. Friends, please welcome Leonardo Duque.
Thank you, friends. It is my privilege.
Leo, I
Yes.
think I found it.
It is my privilege to serve you, and I wish I can do better every time.
Leo,
Today, yes,
I'm sorry, but I'm so excited about this video. I think I found it. So if I could share it, do you guys mind?
yeah,
It's the
please go
Unity
ahead.
Choir. It's the Unity Choir. So I'm just going to try to see if it's there.
Okay, go ahead.
That was for you, Yasmin.
Thank you so much.
Oh, that was Yasmin, so I'm right.
I love to see that again. Oh my goodness. Mm.
That was beautiful. So now, without any further ado, let's pass it back to Leo.
Thank you, friends. So it's a privilege to serve all of you. And today I want to share a research that I have been doing for quite a while. And let me share my screen with you. So the topic of today is there a solid foundation for the core activities? So let me share the writing of the Bible. In the Old Testament, there is a promise. Stephen, would you like to read?
All right. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, in the house to the house of God, of the God of Jacob. And he shall teach us of his ways, and we shall walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke the many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more.
This promise is not only acknowledged by Jews, but also by Christians and Muslims, because all of them accept the Bible, of course. And this is from the Old Testament. So Baha'u'llah ratified that promise. Can somebody read this? A woman?
Whilst in the prison of Akka, we revealed in the Crimson Book that which is conducive to the advancement of mankind and to the reconstruction of the world. The utterances set forth therein by the pen of the Lord of creation include the following, which constitute the fundamental principles for the administration of the affairs of men. First, it is incumbent upon the ministers of the House of Justice to promote the lesser peace, so that the people of the earth may be relieved from the burden of exorbitant expenditures. This matter is imperative and absolutely essential, inasmuch as hostilities and conflict lie at the root of affliction and calamity. Second, languages must be reduced to one common language to be taught in all the schools of the world. Third, it behooveth man to adhere tenaciously unto that which will promote fellowship, kindliness, and unity. Fourth, everyone, whether man or woman, should hand over to a trusted person a portion of what he or she earneth through trade, agriculture, or other occupation, for the training and education of children, to be spent for this purpose with the knowledge of the trustees of the House of Justice. Fifth, special regard must be paid to agriculture. Although it hath been mentioned in the fifth place, unquestionably it precedeth the others. Agriculture is highly developed in foreign lands. However, in Persia, it hath so far been grievously neglected. It is hoped that His Majesty the Shah, may God assist him by his grace, will turn his attention to this vital and important matter.
Okay, friends. In the first point, Baha'u'llah is addressing the ministers of the House of Justice. In the third, he says, it behooved to man to adhere tenaciously unto that which will promote fellowship, kindliness, and unity. Of course, in the fourth, he said that for people to be able to educate their children, there must be able to spend a part of it for that purpose with the knowledge of the trustees of the House of Justice. But then he says, also in the fifth, although it has been mentioned in the fifth place, unquestionably it preceded the others. Agriculture precedes all the other achievements, including the lesser piece. My understanding is that the success in addressing racial discrimination, the most challenging issue for America, is also preceded by agriculture. Let's keep going. Shoghi Effendi mentions that Baha'u'llah aims to reconciling conflicting creeds. His mission is to proclaim that the ages of the infancy and of the childhood of human race are past, that the convulsions associated with the present stage of his adolescence are slowly and painfully preparing him to attain the stage of manhood, and are heralding the approach of that age of ages, when swords will be beaten into plowshares, when the kingdom promised by Jesus Christ will have been established and the peace of the planet definitely and permanently ensured. So somehow agriculture again is preceded by the establishment of peace on the planet. In selection from the writings of Abdul Baha, we find. Somebody would like to read, please? Stephen?
Although vision must
go ahead, please, Vivi.
Okay. Although our vision must be world-embracing, the initial stage of economic reconstruction is at the local level, beginning with agricultural reform. Abdul Baha said, the solution begins with the village, and when the village is reconstructed, then it will be cities be also.
Okay. Once more, to address the economic situation, we have to start with the village. Let me talk a little bit about the formative cause and the formative method of science. Today, if you look into the general properties of matter, this is the third arrow on the left. We see size is one of the general properties of matter. Today's quantitative method is a narrow focus for the problems of the world. We should take in account the form, the mass, the position in time and space, movement and temperature as other properties of matter in order to define the arrangement, the formation of any situation. So why we should be focused on the formative cause, looking at the arrangement, at the form or the shape that the situation is taking place, because justice, unity, harmony are much more important than just the size or the quantitative focus of today's science. So let's keep going down. I will come back to this. Before we move on, love is the essence of the formative cause. The 11 principles of unity of Baha'u'llah are key to find the unity of the world, to reach the unity of the world. And the relationships of, at the very bottom, relationship of moderation, courtesy, equity, unity, equilibrium, harmony, love, peace, and justice are the things that are important to be measured. And at the very bottom, you can find parameters and indicators of unity, beauty, symmetry, harmony, reciprocity, correspondence, and justice. So all of these are concepts or key notions of human faculties that are important for the research of the formative cause and the formative method of science. Let me keep going now. Let's look at this situation. This is coffee growers all over the world, in 70 countries. The economy, one of the most important income on most of the 70 countries that produce coffee is the selling of coffee. But let's listen to this news from Bloomberg News. And let me share this. I don't think I need to share that because it's just a text. Oh, how can I do this?
If it's just a text article, you could share the link in the chat.
Okay, friends. Let me continue with this presentation. What am I sharing here? Is the whole, how do we do this? Okay, so if you go to the airport in Atlanta, or you go to a Starbucks store, a cup of coffee costs $4.50 to $5.50. The farmer in Nigeria, in Costa Rica, in Colombia gets 3 cents. This is some estimates that I did long time ago while I was in Colombia helping farmers and asking my students. I used to go to the rural areas of Colombia, close to Cali, and talk to farmers and said, how can I help you? And if the problem that they had, I was able to address it with being accompanied by other professors, I will submit these themes to my students, and they decided if they wanted to do something about it. But look at this. In the value chain of maize or pineapple, look how much the farmer makes and how much the agro-industry and the merchant make. In accordance with the principles of economics, the greater the risk an industrial operation has, it must be more profitable. But farmers make the least all over the place. And most of it is damage what it is said underneath, the cause of this. Can you read down below, Vivi? Vivi, can you read? The cumulative effect of prejudice.
It would be easier to read if you could put it back into full screen. It's kind of small right now.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to do this.
I can read it. The cumulative effect of prejudices, the cumulative effect of prejudices influences the amount to be paid. Political affiliation, nationality, and social class prejudices also have sway in the amount paid by those who discriminate. If you're poorly, I can't see the rest of it.
Educated farmer, Black, Hispanic, or indigenous, unemployed, you are to be paid even less. Okay. If you're a farmer who owns a big farm and you go in a truck to sell your produce, you get a price. But if you go in a horse or with a sack on your head and you are women, you get even less in the same place. And let me talk a little bit about this. 8 billion human beings on Earth. 4 billion is the workforce of the planet. 40% of those 4 billion are farmers. 600 million out of those 1.6 get a salary and benefits. 1 billion farmers are invisible for economists and consciously ignored by politicians. Why am I saying they are invisible for economists? When you talk to an economist, to a doctor or an economist, what is work? He said, well, some money for it, that's work. I was talking to a professor, friend of mine, in Colombia, and he said, like, my wife work at home was no work from the economic perspective. And I would say, how come? It brings well-being for the family. I mean, house is clean, kids are being well raised, etc., etc. And he said, it's not work for economists. And we went around talking about this whole thing. And I say, Mauricio was his name. Mauricio, from the physics perspective, work is movement and energy consumption. And he was surprised, and he said, well, they will have to reconsider what their definition of work. So this is part of the fragmentation of knowledge in the world. So farmers who have a little plot to plant carrots or whatever, nobody's paying them to do that. They don't have any benefits. They just take the sack of oranges or lemons or whatever and go to the store to sell them. So that's part of the problem. And of course, consciously ignored by politicians. In the past, rural population was important and they accounted for a lot of the votes. 70% of the population used to live in rural areas. Today, it's much more smaller, and politicians don't care anymore for the situation in rural areas. Let me go back. And now let's look to prejudice from another perspective. When using another method associated with the destiny of all things and the root cause of problems, we find. Let's read this quote from Abdul Baha'i, who passed away in 1921, not long after the end of World War I. We learn. Can somebody read, please?
O ye lovers of truth, ye servants of humankind, out of the flowering of your thought, emanations have come my way. Wherefore an inner sense of obligation come. Oh, I left out there.
Come my way.
Yeah, fragrant emanations have come my way. Wherefore an inner sense of obligation compelleth me to pen these words. Ye observe how the world is divided against itself, how many a land is red and blood, and its very dust is caked with human gore. The fires of conflict have blazed so high that never in early times, nor in the Middle Ages, not in recent centuries, had there ever been such a hideous war, a war that is even as milestone taken from gain, for taking for grain the skulls of men, nay, even worse, for flourishing countries have been reduced to rubble. Rubble cities have been leveled with the ground, and many a once prosperous village had been turned into ruin. Fathers have lost their sons, and sons their fathers. Mothers have wept away their hearts over dead children. Children have been orphaned, women left to wander, fragrance without a home. From every aspect, humankind had sunken low. Loud are the piercing cities of fatherless cries. Piercing cries of fatherless children. Loud, loud the mothers. Anguished voices reaching to the skies. And the breeding ground of all these tragedies is prejudice. Prejudice of race and nation, of religion, of political opinion. And the root cause of prejudice is blind imitation of the past. Imitation in religion is racial attitudes, in national bias, in politics. So long as this upping of the past persisted, just so long will the foundations of the social order be blown to the four winds. Just so long will humanity be continually exposed to direst peril.
Mhm. Okay. So the root cause of prejudice is blind imitation. This is a big obstacle in searching for truth in general. What is it has been the cause of all these wars, okay? During the Civil War in America, 750,000 people died. The main cause is slavery in the plantations. Rwanda, the German colonizers rationalized subjugation of Rwanda's large Hutu population under the flawed assumption that the Tutsis were more Caucasian and thus more fit to rule. This is people immigrating in masses in Rwanda. 800,000 people killed by machetes in Rwanda. Prejudice. What happened to that order in Rwanda that they wanted to impose? The same thing here in the US. What happened to those who wanted to impose that order? Stubbornly keeping oppressed others based on prejudice. It fell apart. Okay. And now let's go to agriculture in the Baha'i world. Among them are the teachings concerning the question of economics. To solve this problem, we must begin with the farmer. There we will lay a foundation for system and order, because the peasant class and the agricultural class exceed other classes in their service, in the importance of their service. Foundation of system and order. When I look at the order, I look at the need to protect food security in every place on earth. Take care of the ecosystem and take care of farmers. So let's look into the foundation for system. okay? The potential of biodiversity to generate employment. To generate employment in the world, we should consider as an option the empowering with the scientific methods to the youth of the world, so they can discover the potential of approximately 300,000 species of plants, 1 million species of insects. If you go to a Congress of Entomology, they will talk about a few scores of beneficial insects. We just don't know the function of the other 900,000 species of insects. There are 300,000 secondary metabolites. These are chemical compounds estimated to exist in plants. And if you start thinking about combinations of 2, 3, or 4, it goes to huge amounts of potentialities for industry, health, nutrition, agriculture itself. There are between 600 and 6 million species of fungi. They have found that there are some fungi associated to the roots of the plants. They help plants reach a greater surface to get nutrients and water to the roots. Earth may be home to 1 trillion species of microbes. According to a new estimate, there are about 1 trillion of them. 99.999% of them have yet to be discovered. 500 species of bacteria in our guts, and we have a greater number of them in our body than human cells. 8% of our DNA is of viral origin. Let me talk about this. This is a new metal, 200 times stronger than steel. From soybean oil, it was discovered. It is a better conductor of electricity than copper. It's called graphene. This tire, made out of orange peels, oil, runs 1,700 miles more, 17,000 miles more than a conventional touring tire. These are larvae that Lady Bertocchini discovered, that it's plastics. She thinks that, she believes that there is an enzyme in the digestive systems of the larva that helps break up the chemical bonds of bee wax, because this is a larva that is a plague for beehives and polyethylene molecules. For agriculture, we have these guys. When they are during the larval period, they eat 370 aphids and during their adult time, 5,000 of them. This is Chrysoperla. This is a voracious enemy of pests of plants. I mean, they are really good at taking care of a lot of pests. This is the mycorrhiza that I was talking to you about. Yeah, mycorrhiza fungi increases the surface absorbing area of roots between 100 to 1,000 times, thereby greatly improving the ability of the plant to access soil resources. So the idea is to empower the youth of the world with the method of science, so they can learn the methods in the context of the potential of biodiversity. After that, they can use those methods for whatever they want to serve the institutions and the faith of Baha'u'llah. Another potentiality of, 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 of plants is this. For healing our bodies. In the writings, it says in the tablet to the physician, treat disease first of all through diet and refrain from medicine. If you can find what you need for healing in a single herb, do not use a compound medicine. Leave off medicine when the health is good and use it in case of necessity. These are the reasons why people migrate. Not having food for the kids, and rampant decades-long unemployment. This is a real picture of a guy with his son in his arms, crossing the border between Mexico and the US. And look at this quote from the promulgation of universal peace from Abdul Baha'i. The fundamental basis of the community is agriculture, tillage of the soil. All must be produced. So this is what I'm suggesting for us to consider and the institutions to consider. Let's start talking about agriculture. This is the suggested scientific inquiry. How can the core activities, children classes, junior youth groups, the sequence of courses, devotional meetings, and reflection gatherings help alleviate the plight of farmers, especially that of the small ones, and their link to the environmental crisis in the United States of America? Look at this quote from the writings, and this is the efficient cause and the descriptive and experimental method of science. Can somebody read this quote from the writings?
Sure. Just as the phenomenal sun shines upon the material world, producing life and growth, likewise, the spiritual or prophetic sun confers illumination upon the human world of thought and intelligence. And unless it rose upon the horizon of human existence, the kingdom of man would become dark and extinguished.
Okay, if you look at the efficient cause, it is related with whom, with what being are we going to transform the situation? The word of God is something very powerful, yes? All existing entities, beings, systems, tools, methods, classes of category as foundation of philosophy, relationships of strength and force, parameters and indicators of efficiency and productivity. But looking here in the column of faculties, we have the mind, and we have the power of thought, talent, potentialities, energies, and forces laden in human beings and other beings on other existing beings. The power of expression, the power of reasons are important. So let me go a little bit further with this theme. Look at the process of photosynthesis. A photon of light hits the leaves of a plant, yes, and look what it produces. Sugars. It produces starches, which are sugars. And look at this quote. There is nothing sweeter in the world of existence than pearls. We're talking about devotional gatherings. So this link, there is a quote in the writing that says that science and religion are joined and welded in reality. There is nothing sweeter in the world of existence than pearls. Let's talk about adolescents in Sierra Place, in Sandy Springs. They were going to school with their lamps turned off. They wanted to sleep 15 minutes more. So, and I found this quote, eat a little in the morning, for this is as a lamp to the body. This is in the tablet of medicine. So I shared these quotes with the mothers and the kids in Sandy Springs for them to eat breakfast. And I took a real lamp. There was electricity in the outlet. The bulb was working, but the lamp was off. And I showed them why they were asking to have remedial time at school to pass the year, because all the three of them were failing. So I shared with them this quote. They started having breakfast before going to school, and all of them passed the year. And there is a lot of scientific knowledge about to back up this quote, to support what is being said. This is the exploratory method of science and the propositional method of science. In the first valley, in the valley of search, Wahaula says, the state of this valley is patience. And we will not attain our goal if we are not patient. I'm not quoting. Patience and self-control are very important for us to exercise our free will, volition. If we are impulsive human beings, we don't have free will. We just act in accordance with our impulses. And this is a common feature in adolescence. We want independence. We want to have volition. But we have to help kids deal with learning self-control and patience, so they can make the right choices in life. The purpose of the junior group is to learn patience in life. Now let me go and talk a little bit about homeostasis in plants. Plants respond in accordance with the stimuli received. Homeostasis is a process to maintain equilibrium within the plant. The temperature, the water level, the ion concentration. See? So homeostasis is a process in plants to respond to the environment and why it changes. With the seasons, with the rainy seasons, with the summer heat, all of those are variables the plants are able to control to a certain level. And let me go back to here. Problems are very important in the cause of maturity and the exploratory and propositional method of science. We cannot expect a life without problems. It's a complete chimera. What is the meaning of health, education, economy, development, civilization without problems? What is a career without problems? What it is to be mom or dad without problems to be addressed, needs to be solved, issues to respond. So we have been endowed with intelligence, with discernment, with volition, with huge research capacities to address the problems of today. But this is in the writings. The same test comes again in greater degree until it is shown that a former weakness has become a strength and the power to overcome evil has been established. So there were plants animals, through the process of evolution, we have been learning to adapt and to respond to the environment. There is a cycle of violence in domestic violence, in all cases, in racial discrimination, there is a cycle of violence. So we have to understand what's going on there, and we have to address the problem. But look at this when you are growing up. And let's go back to self-control. The self-control theory of crime, often referred to as the general theory of crime, is a criminological theory about the lack of individual self-control as the main factor behind a criminal behavior. So teaching adolescents in our classes about self-control is very important because we are addressing these problems. I was talking to Bill Hewitt and Marsha Hewitt, both of them educators, and what could be the best approach to address this problem. And they started thinking that they shared with me something beautiful. They taught me, Leo, consultation in the junior U group is the key. If you teach them how to listen to others, how to pay attention what the other one is saying, listen to girls and their feelings and their opinions about the situation of a child or the ecosystem or whatever. Listen to those feelings of tenderness of heart, empathy, and compassion are very important to consult and make wise choices together. This is a huge study with 102 publications, close to 1 million data points. Yeah. So it's not. This is what is called a meta-analysis. Yes. Children classes. This is the last PowerPoint presentation that I want to show you. Yeah. Children are the most precious treasure the community can possess, for in them are the promise and guarantee of the future. They bear the seeds of the character of future society, which is largely shaped by the adults constituting the community, do or fail to do with respect to children. They are a trust no community can neglect with impunity. So today's focus is completely material, but the material cause that the Greek philosophers talked about, the spirit is the notion, the foundational notion of it. Moral values, spiritual values, knowledge, the specific properties of matter, the spiritual laws, the standards of regular quality and loss of possession, parameters and indications of efficacy and quality. I do believe that if a child learns to be truthful, he or she will have much better relationships with his parents, his teachers, his siblings, his friends, her friends. I do believe that if a human being learns to be faithful in marriage, will have a better quality of life, and the community as a whole benefits. I do believe if a person decides to be honest in life, he or she will be able to keep her job, even the most humble job. So we should be thankful to those who are teaching our children in the virtues that Abdul Baha taught to us so graciously. Thank you, friends, for listening to me today. Oh, shouldn't we talk during the reflection gatherings about food security. Look at this little child in the arms of this lady. You can see the malnourishment of her. Look what I found in my second book. It's called In Honor to the Women of the World. It was about the governance of the world. The author sadly concluded that around 1.2 billion people deprived of a significant portion of their potential intellectual capacities because of lack of protein of their mothers during pregnancy. But I thought I was crazy. This is the yellow color. And I talked to a friend of mine who is a doctor in beans, protein source, of course. And he told me, Leo, I don't think you're crazy. Let me go. I'm in my way to a congress about nutrition in the Philippines, and I will share with you whatever I find. He brought me two researches, one about iron deficiency and one about iodine deficiency in the diet. 1.6 billion, 2.1 billion human beings affected in their IQ because of lack of good food, of enough. So this is the situation of the world. So during the reflection gathering, should we console and share experiences of meaningful conversations about the following? How are we going to help the person who envisions himself or herself as superior or inferior because of his or her skin color to initiate a spiritual battle and modify his or her feelings, beliefs, and behavior to reaching his or her high destiny? National Geographic says 2.9 trillion pounds of food. That is about 1/3 of the planet wasted enough to feed 2 billion. How are we going to guarantee food security for all? The average farm to plate travel distance of the American meal, 1,500 miles. A head of lettuce, 2,000 miles. Can I do anything about my carbon print? These are the topics that I am suggesting for our reflection gatherings and our consultation at feast. Is this reasonable? Are there any questions? Thank you, friends.
Thank you. Thank you, Leonardo. So do we have any questions or thoughts to share?
Yeah, I do like the idea of the agriculture part where it's like I do agree that we should plant, because it's like only some countries you find that people don't get into gardening and all of that. Well, I know in America here, you could only plant during the summertime. And, every summer, I always have a little kitchen garden and all of that. This summer, the pumpkin vine take over the whole backyard. We picked like something big pumpkins. And this is seed that we brought from South America. And something big, these green squash, big squash. And until now, I have pumpkin there because, you pick it and you keep it. It could keep very long till you're ready to cook it. I get time, then I'll cut it up and just put it in bags and freeze it. So I have pumpkin till next summer again. So, I like that idea of planting. The ground don't fail us. Mother Earth don't fail us. And yes, I like that little, what you said, eat a little in the morning, for this is a lamp to the body. the kids, they eat in the morning. Cannot send children to school hungry, they're not gonna function right. So yeah, you have to feed them and give them something to eat so they can, function in school and think. Yes. So, and that part where you say that, okay, if you go with a truck with your produce, they're going to pay you for your produce. A poor woman walking, going with a basket to sell whatever she planned, they would not pay her, and all, and those who taking the produce on horses or donkeys and all of that, they would not get no particular money for their produce. It's like the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. All the time this been happening. You find this been happening all the time. Yes. So, like, yeah.
Excuse me, Vivi. That is a big challenge. We have to change peacefully that distribution of the added value, and to reach that, I believe that it's very, very important the participation of women, because you are more inclined towards peace. You are much more peaceful human beings than we males, actually. So the role of women in achieving that goal of changing the distribution of the added value in favor of the farmers is going to be a big challenge. But we as Baha'is, we have to address it.
That's right. And I mean, I like, there's something I like to do is teaching children classes, because they are the future. Children are the most precious treasure in a community, and they learn from us, and they are our future. And that they say that they are trust no community can neglect with impunity. So it's very important that we give these children spiritual education at a very early age. Yes, so that is just my little.
Thank you. Any other inputs or any other questions? I will do my best to try to answer.
Yeah, Leo, I was born and raised in South Carolina, where there was farms everywhere, like Yasmin and, many third world countries. I grew up with a garden in the backyard, and since I've been here at the Unity Center, looking at all of this space and property that we've had here, and in previous years, there were beautiful, and there still are very beautiful flower gardens and spaces for that. And we have offered space in the back of the center for gardens, and whatnot, but it doesn't seem to kind of like take a hold. So I'm wondering, and looking at this whole presentation here this morning, and a couple of weeks back, there was a conference, and I know of a fact that there's several Baha'i centers that have beautiful gardens for communities. So what is it that we can do here at the Unity Center to bring these writings into reality?
Okay,
we've got the space, but we don't really have the know-how, the expertise to guide the friends that are willing to do it, to show us what needs to happen. How to establish beds, what needs to be planted and where it needs to be planted. We don't have that, because South DeKalb has the highest number of diabetes. We're the most, it is a food desert, even though we have grocery stores and whatnot and whatever, it is still considered a food desert, because people don't invest in fresh fruits and vegetables.
Okay, we can sit down. We can invite other friends who are more familiar with the agriculture in Atlanta. And I would love to sit down with you guys and consult about what can be done. If there is a committee for the Baha'i Unity Center, I will join you graciously and happy to find out what is the best thing. I remember a talk at the Ruhi Institute, very close to the Ruhi Institute in Colombia. These were pregnant women facing exactly this situation of malnourishment. Yeah, even though those are very fertile soils, but are all planted in sugarcane. So they were telling me, we were talking about sources of protein to take care of the creature in their womb. And we found that there was a legume that grows wild along the roads in our region of Colombia, but they didn't want to let others know that they were grasping that bean. And I said, why? Well, they will say, this is the bean for the poor. And I said, well, that bean is a favorite plate of the cuisine in Puerto Rico. So the cultural values are in the middle of some things. Absolutely, it was absurd. You know? And please, it's just from God that you are able to get these beans and cook them and feed yourselves. And also, I told them, look, if the husband is being served the meat and the chicken, and the pregnant mom, you have to talk to your husband, and he has to eat plantain or rice or whatever, and the protein goes to the mother if there is not enough for everybody. So those were the choices that we were talking about in that meeting with them. So thank you so much, friends, for attending this meeting. It was a pleasure to serve all of you.
It was a pleasure to have you with us. I thought I'd throw out, this is a little off the topic, but you were talking about the unity of science and religion here. And you mentioned the Greek philosophers, of course, and many of the scientific concepts we use even today have roots that go as far back as ancient Greece.
Mm-hmm.
And, but interestingly, the ancient Greek philosophers who laid these foundations did not see, of course, they usually called it physics back then, which was the study of the natural world, basically, in a very much broader sense than it is now. They didn't see these things as an end in themselves. They saw them as, they said their idea was, if you understood the way the world was, then you would understand why you should behave in a certain way. So already, even in that far back, ancient times, this notion that somehow there was a link between what we would call science and philosophy, at least, but how you live your life was already there. That the principles were somehow similar,
Oh yes, definitely. When in Colombia, we invited some indigenous representatives of different tribes of South America to a seminar to present almost 80 textbooks that we have researched during the previous 15 years for them to take it to the tribes. After the 2 weeks, I met this was an indigenous, a Quechua Indian from Bolivia. Another one was a Mapuche from Chile, and the other one was a Carina from Venezuela. And we sat down to drink some coffee after 2 weeks of seminar. And I said, well, what do you think about these textbooks? I'm talking about Fundaek. And they look at each other and they allow the oldest one to talk to Sabino Ortega. So Sabino looks at me and says, Leo, what you have is good. But we indigenous look at the world in a different way. 15 years of scientific research. So that encouraged me to study philosophy and go to the Greeks because that's what Baha'u'llah advises us to do. So it took me years to come to whatever I presented today. But it took me a long, long time because it is a maze. It is a difficult maze to come out of it successfully. But I tried, and I have had good professors, of course. One of the professors of Fundae was a guy, a physicist, Jairo Roldan, which is a physicist also, and he was encouraged by Dr. Abad to study philosophy of science at the Sorbonne in Paris, and he was one of my professors, one of the team. So I learned from all of them, of course, and they guided me what to study and where to. That was part of it, of course. Yes. And thanks to Dr. Abad, what a beautiful soul.
Well, I'm afraid we are going to wrap up for now, but thank you again for being with us. So before we close, let me make just a few small announcements. Today's program has been recorded and posted to the YouTube channel entitled South DeKalb Baha'i Unity Center, where you can view it and invite others to view it as well. For members of the Baha'i faith, you are warmly encouraged to make a financial contribution to the South DeKalb Baha'i Fund, the Sandy Springs Baha'i Fund, and the National Baha'i Fund through the online contribution system, ocs.baha'i.us, or mail a check to the Baha'i Unity Center at 2370 Wesley Chapel Road, Decatur, Georgia, 30035. I want to give many thanks to everyone who worked together to make today's program possible. Our wonderful speaker, our volunteer readers, Barbara Hennix, who keeps everything going, the spiritual assemblies of the Baha'is of South DeKalb and Sandy Springs, and of course, to everyone who came here today and shared this time with us. So I'm Stephen Boyanton. Until next time, stay safe and stay well. We're going to end now the closing prayer for the departed.
Would someone like to say it and remember our friends in Kentucky?
I can say it if you want.
Thank you, yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh my God, O thou forgiver of sins, bestower of gifts, dispeller of afflictions, verily I beseech thee to forgive the sins of such as have abandoned the physical garment and have ascended to the spiritual world, O my Lord. Purify them from trespasses, dispel their sorrows, and change their darkness into light. Cause them to enter into the garden of happiness. Cleanse them with the most pure water, and grant them to behold thy splendors on the loftiest mount. Abdul Baha.
Thank you, everyone. Aloha.
Thank you, aloha, everybody.
Thank you, Leonardo.
Thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
Okay.